Hello? Hello? Okay. There you are. Hello. Thank you for coming. My name is Alberto Ruiz. I work for Red Hat on the desktop group. Christian, who you listened in the previous talk, he's my boss. And today I'm going to talk about Fleet Commander, a new project we're starting in the desktop group to try to make Federal Workstation, Rail Workstation, and GNOME a better desktop for large organizations that are trying to provide a workstation solution for an open source workstation solution for their organization. So what is Fleet Commander? Fleet Commander provides the infrastructure to manage large desktop deployments to make the life of IT departments bearable when they have dozens to thousands of Linux desktop users. So has anyone here ever been in a sysadmin role in a deployment with more than 10 desktop users? Doesn't really matter if it was Windows or Linux or, there you go. I've been in that position a few times previously in my career, and it's a nightmare. Yeah, it is a nightmare. Managing, because for the people who are more on the DevOps side, like managing servers is easy because you're the one doing most of the input in the system. And I mean, from the end users of the services, most of what happens is you're getting stuff from the network. But on a desktop machine, the expectations about the stuff that you can do are a lot higher. So there's a lot more stuff happening. And just because of that, it's a lot harder. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about why we think this is important. The first thing is we're trying to be more competitive with the closed source solutions. Macs don't have a great story here, but Microsoft has really, I wouldn't say great tools, but they do have the tools to solve these problems in a more manageable fashion. And we've struggled to sell in the not in the commercial way, but sell the idea that Linux is better for large deployments. It turns out that even though we have more flexibility because it's open source, a lot of these sysadmins don't want to be scripting and learning Unix, and they just want a management interface where they can, make sure that every laptop is properly configured, that they have the services that the organization is consuming, that they can manage, like they can react to problems that the users are having in a timely fashion. And more importantly, they don't want to have to treat each machine as a machine that they have to tweak by themselves, especially when you have hundreds of users. That doesn't scale. So the way Linux desktop deployments have been managed so far is by creating derivative distributions. In Spain, there was, for a couple of years, there were a lot of regional governments that did their own Linux distro. And part of the reason they had to do that was because a pristine Linux distro that you deployed on schools for tens or hundreds of thousands users didn't scale, because you will have to go machine by machine, trying to figure out how to install the right software, trying to figure out. So what they did is they created their own packages on top of the standard distribution and created their own derivative. This has a couple of problems because first of all, you have to maintain the distro. You have to do all the a lot of the system integration work after the fact that the distribution guys have been doing, because you're modifying the distro. So a lot of the testing they did, you're going to have to do it again because you've been tweaking and modifying stuff. And that certainly has impact on the stability. So it can be a nightmare to do this. And the key fact is that a lot of times these guys are trying to work around the limitations of the upstreams. And I think that's, for Fleet Commander, that's the change in philosophy. What we're trying to do is not to work around the lack of manageability of the desktop. We're trying to go to the upstreams and enable hooks and twigs that allows us to manage those desktops from above, if you know what I mean. So another approach people have been taking is using tools like Ansible and Puppet. The problem is that this usually means that you're going to have to poke into every home directory of every user in your organization. So this, again, doesn't scale really well, because if you have hundreds of thousands, to deploy a change can take many hours, and it's quite intrusive, and it can break things while they're running it. So that's, yeah?
Does this apply to like a home partition being shared over NFS, which is quite a common...
Yeah, but so let's...
Single machine where you have to do all the changes.
The problem is not about whether the home directory is in the machine or centralized somewhere. The problem is that you're changing users' data in an intrusive way, and there are many ways by which that can break things, especially if you're doing while they're running their apps. So, that's... so again, this doesn't quite scale, and it requires a lot of scripting and knowledge of Unix, and you need to know the guts of the application and how it interacts with the configuration system to really know what you're doing, and then do a deployment that you're certain that it's not going to break things. So again, as I said before, our plan is to have a solution that does not that is not invasive to the system, and this ties quite well with the idea of an atomic workstation image that we are hoping we can have in the future. Again, I recommend you go to Alex's talk later. He's going to talk a bit more about application bundles and how this ties with the idea that we should treat the OS image as something that out of the box is going to provide the capabilities that we have. We should not, it doesn't really scale if we have to, for every use case, modify the OS and then deploy that modified version. What we want is to be able to say, this is Fedora Workstation, this is RHEL Workstation, you deploy it, and then we give you the tools to, after the fact that you deployed it, we give you the tools to be able to manage, in this case, configuration settings for your workstation users. So I'm going to talk a little bit about basic concepts. I'm assuming everybody knows what a setting is. But to give you an example, the time zone, the time zone where you're at, that's an example of a setting, or whether you want it to be automatically updated, things like that. Anything that is on control center most of the time it can be considered a setting. And then again, application settings as well, like whether I want a transparent background on my terminal. A profile, when I'm going to be talking about a profile, what I mean with that is a group of settings that are logically grouped together. So, and usually I will apply those groups of settings to a given target. I'll talk a little more about targets later. But a certain group of settings can be useful for my marketing department, and another group of settings can be interesting for my engineering department. Targets are the subject of the profile. So it's basically, once I have a profile, a group of settings that describe a common behavior or a common set of use cases for a given part of your organization, you want to deploy them there. So when I talk about targets, I talk about users, groups of users, or machines. And eventually groups of machines as well, because you may have a use case for the machine or host case could be a kiosk system you have in your organization, maybe for printing or something like that next to the printer or something like that. So you might want to have settings that are specific to that machine. It should not only be about users or groups of users. Then the other concept I want to clarify so that what I'm talking about when I talk about repository is we're going to have a centralized store for every profile, so that the hosts are going to be able to pull it from it. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture that we're planning to have. So this, the first component of Fleet Commander is the management interface. So basically, this is going to be a web UI where you're going to be able to create, manage, and deploy your profiles in your organization. I'm going to do a demo afterwards, so you'll get more details about how that'll work. Again, profile repositories. Our main target is LDAP, but since we don't want to enforce any specific infrastructure model, we're going to allow extensions to deploy your profiles in the systems with different mechanisms. So that could be done through Puppet. That could be done through an HTTP server. We have several options there. But the main one, mostly because LDAP is an industry standard, is mostly used it's used a lot on large deployments. I think with that one, we're going to cover 90% of the use cases. And the other component is a client agent that is going to run on every host. This agent is going to pull the profile data from the repository. Again, this could be an LDAP server, an HTTP server. It's going to cache it, and it's going to figure out which users that are logged in the machine. It's going to figure out the settings that are going to be applied to each user that is logged in the machine. So it's going to figure out, is this user from the group, from the marketing group? Okay, then I need to see if I have a profile that has settings for the marketing group, and it's going to compose a settings overlay that the platform is going to just consume out of the box. Again, this is all done outside of the home directory. It's all done in a centralized spot, and we've taught, in this case, G settings, but we're planning to enable more apps outside of the GNOME platform to consume this data as well. So the current state is we have a working proof of concept that already covers the core features. Right now, we're only covering G settings-based apps, so most GNOME apps using dconf. If there's a GNOME app not using G settings for their settings, that's not going to work. So we're going to have to figure out either encouraging more apps to make better use or more use of dconf and G settings, or we're going to have to do a specific integration for whenever things are not fall out of the scope of G settings, and we still want to provide those through profiles. We have GNOME Online Accounts integration, meaning that you can set up an account that will automatically be configured for that specific user. We even have some tweaks in place so that you can make a query to figure out the username in the organization, and it will just put it in place so that once the machine is logged into the network, it'll just ask for the password for the services they need, and they don't have to manually configure their email account, their their cloud storage. That's going to be done automatically. This doesn't work yet on Fedora 21, just because the integration was done on the GNOME 3.16 branch. So that's something we're going to have to wait for Fedora 22 to be able to see. But the work is already done. And the other thing that we have is the web-based profile builder that I'm going to show you. It's an interactive profile builder. And now it comes the risky bit of the talk. I'm going to make a demo of our proof of concept. So I have a virtual machine here with Fedora 21 and a couple of users. So we have myself and Matthew Barnes as part of the Red Hat team, Red Hat group, and then we have Ken Thompson and Dennis Frigid as part of the Bell group. So I'm going to start the web service for the administration interface. There we go. So the design of the web interface is not final, just in case you're wondering. You know? I have some mock-ups that Andreas and I were working on yesterday. I'll show them afterwards. But this is just, again, proof of concept, trying to figure out how things work. So it's a bit ugly. So I'm gonna create a new profile. So what this does is not very reliable, but whoa. No, don't worry, it's normal. There you go. It's a bit slow for some reason. Well. Hello? I think it's because the monitor output. Anyway, I'll see if it fixes itself, and I'll start explaining what it does. So I have a virtual session with a special user, and really, let me. Yeah, I think it's because I'm using the mirroring output or something, but let me see if I can fix this. What? Okay, X crashed. Anyway. Yeah, well, now I have to restart my session, so sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry. So, I mean, I've done this demo before, so it's the first time this happens. I'll try to you suggested. Sorry, guys. So anyway, I'll try to explain what it actually does. Shut up. Sorry, guys. Seriously?
Switching resolution.
I'll try one last time. If it doesn't work, I'll.
Do you have some screenshots you can show?
Yeah. I'm gonna. Turn off this. I don't know, maybe this will work. I'll try with Firefox, see if that helps at all. Profiler. What? Seriously? Oh man, disaster. Anyway, I guess I'll skip the demo. Seriously? Yeah, I guess that justifies the picture. So basically, I'll explain how it works. Basically, it gives me a virtual session that I'm connecting to through HTML5 Spice. So I'm remotely accessing a desktop session. I can configure my app interactively as I will be configuring it if I was using it on my session. And there's a daemon that registers all the configuration changes, and I can select, all the changes that I'm interested in, bundle them in a profile, and say I want to apply this profile on user X, group Y, and of course I can manage all my profiles. Yes.
Is this profile somehow editable outside of Deco, or is it anyhow editable outside of this fleet commander stuff?
Yes, it's a JSON file.
Okay.
Yes. It's so it's not a dconf database. It'll eventually translate to a dconf database, but that only happens on the host. The file itself is, you can edit it. You're not supposed to, and in the sense that my hope is that the admin UI is going to give you everything you need to tweak it. So I'm not gonna rely on that to provide features, if you know what I mean. But yes, you can get into it, and it's pretty obvious what it does when you get into it. So you can, but you have to be careful about the values because they should be dconf, G-variant strings that represent values of the actual database. So, but yeah, you can edit them. So the demo was supposed to show how profile applied to one group only applies to the users of that group, and not to the others. And then after I remove the profile, like everything goes back to normal. I'm really sorry. I can it's working on my laptop, so if anyone is interested afterwards, I can do like a demo around some. Yeah.
You just say that everything goes back to normal once you remove the profile. So it means that you get in memory what was the settings beforehand with the profile?
It means that the way it works is the daemon that is running on the host. From time to time it polls the repository, and if it figures that the profile is not there anymore, it will rebuild the profile dconf database, and in the next session, once that happens, those settings just go away from that overlay. So the application will read the values, either the default values or the values that the user had beforehand. There's two types of settings, so you can actually enforce the setting and prevent the user from modifying it, or you can set it as a default, so that it's the way it works out of the box, but the user can still. So that's an option. We don't provide that option in the UI, so right now it works only as enforcing by default. But that's something we want, sysadmins to be able to tweak. It's actually pretty neat because with the migration from gconf to gsettings, everything was laid out so that in the UI, those settings that are enforced, the widget will be disabled. So you're not even able to change it. That happens out of the box right now. This is for gsettings-based apps, not for, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that for things like Firefox, unless we do something clever there. So there's a couple of things we have in our agenda for as we go ahead with the project. So the first one is provide a better admin UI, a bit more robust. As you've seen, we have a few problems. We already have some plans to streamline the setup because right now it's quite, you have to do a lot of stuff manually. We basically want to provide the virtual session as a Docker image. So you can have several workstation OSs like Fedora workstation, Fedora 21 workstation, RHEL 7, and you can you can use the different images. And of course, you can add more apps on top so that you can tweak those. We want to do integration beyond GNOME and G-settings, of course. We want to add support for LibreOffice, Firefox, Chrome, and anything basically that is going to be consumed from the desktop and that we have chances to integrate. I skipped one point. It looks that the way we're going to provide this is as a role from Cockpit. This is not 100% decided, but basically the way it'll work is that you're going to go to Cockpit and say, I want to enable this server as an administration UI manager for my desktop deployment. And that's, once you do that, you're going to be able to go from Cockpit to the admin UI, and it'll all look as one thing. But this is more or less of an idea. It's not set into stone yet, so we're looking at other possibilities with regards to integration. Browser bookmarks, of course. We wanna be able to say, these are my bookmarks, and I wanna, have these bookmarks by default on everybody's browsers. SSD integration. So the way we want to sign machines into the, Fleet Commander management realm is going to be through SSD. And there are other things like recommended apps in software or the shortcuts on your application favorite dock. And yeah.
So with the SSD integration, does it mean that the client agent would run as root?
It doesn't have to run as root, no.
Well, it depends on what part of SSH.
So the SSD integration will sign the machine and enable the Fleet Commander service, enable and configure the Fleet Commander service, but the Fleet Commander itself doesn't have to run as root. And yeah, that's more or less what we have in the what we need to fix in the foreseeable future.
How do
Sure.
you handle user changes? So you said you can override the settings, or you can let the user change it.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking like the browser bookmarks. You have a browser bookmark A, B, C, D. The user remove D. How do you make sure that the D doesn't come back the day after?
We'll have to figure that one out, but it's doable. This is not all new. Like a lot of this, I used to work at some microsystems on a similar product that worked on GNOME 2. So a lot of these things are already figured out. We just need to, dig that code from because that was done on Mozilla. I don't know the version, but those things are fixable.
And if you change the default,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to override it.
Sorry, what's that again?
So, for example, you have a 3-option setting.
Mm-hmm.
You have option A as the default.
Mm-hmm.
The user changes this to option B,
Mm-hmm.
and then you change the default to be option C.
That
I'm just trying to figure out.
it should if it's not enforced, it should honor the user change. Yes. So it's a layer system. So basically, if it's enforced, it's on top of the user preference, and if it's not enforced, it's below the.
That does mean that if the default changes, the user might actually get different behavior from the user.
Can you repeat the?
If the default value changes, then the user is going to have his desktop behaving differently from Monday to Tuesday.
Yes, but maybe that's what the sysadmin wants. That's what you want.
Yeah, you might have. If you're marketing and then suddenly your browser start behaving differently than it did yesterday.
Well, but that's it.
Which means
But the IT guys know that, so they wouldn't change something.
for the whole day they're going to answer questions and say, yeah, this is normal.
But then don't do it. But you're in control. The problem is when you're not in control. If you chose to do that, you're gonna have to accept the consequences. But the problem is when you don't have any control over each setting. So that's worse because it means like you have 100 different systems behaving differently because the user installed like stuff, and someone else tweaked it, and that's even worse. At least in this case, you can manage things, and a lot of on a system where you don't have this sort of control, you're gonna get a lot more calls because people don't know how to configure stuff. And at least in this, with this setup, you're able to give them a same default, but people are not gonna be changing stuff all day, from one week to the other. So it's like, and when they do changes, those things are planned. So, but the problem is, it's not a good reason not to provide this because, changes are going to happen, because that's exactly what the tool provides, is the ability to deploy those changes.
Is there any way to read back, like if a single user has done a local change? Is that visible in any way? The management process?
I don't know. So the way it works right now is that if you have a value for a certain key in your dconf database, that's
Yeah, I know. That's how it works on the read side, but the management daemon could I don't know, send back to the.
No, we don't want to do that. The way
it
we
could be interesting as a manager, if someone calls in, you can see that he did change these things from the default.
Right. You mean like being able to know what users changed?
Like someone calls and, but I set you up and I see here you switched this thing from the default.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a privacy issue, but
I can see a tool like that being helpful, but it's sort of like the information goes in the opposite direction of what I'm doing, so I'm not sure how to tackle that. I don't know.
There is something for making sure that things are standardized across the system. I totally forgot what it is. It's like there's certain documents that should be different.
Any other
Never mind.
questions? So again, sorry about the demo, but if someone wants to see it working, they can grab me anytime, and I'll show it. Like, it works. It's something else broke. Thank you.